Today, we're diving deep into a techno-thriller about a new kind of global conflict. Forget bombs and bullets. This war is fought in quiet hospital wards and sterile labs. It's a silent war, waged with genes, code, and a weapon that hides in plain sight.
So let's jump right in. We're not starting at the beginning. We're starting right in the middle of the chaos. Meet Dr. Maya Hernandez. She's an infectious disease specialist in Chicago, and she's watching what's supposed to be a normal flu season morph into an absolute nightmare. That quote, that's the moment the data stops being just numbers on a screen and becomes a warning siren for a full-blown catastrophe.
And this chart, this is what that scream looks like. Just look at it. Hospital admissions for severe respiratory failure weren't just up. They were already triple the usual peak. And the terrifying part? The flu season hadn't even peaked yet. This was not a bad flu. This was something else entirely.
What was really sending chills down everyone's spines was who was dying. It wasn't just the elderly or the vulnerable. No, it was young, healthy people. People in their 20s and 30s, showing up with flu symptoms and ending up on a ventilator just days later. Doctors were completely blindsided, and that confusion, that's what set the stage for a much, much darker discovery.
And here's the insidious part. The virus was a ghost. Every standard test, from local hospitals all the way up to the CDC, came back saying the same thing: common seasonal flu. It was hiding in plain sight. This made the insane death rate and the very specific way it was killing people by causing their own immune systems to go haywire all the more alarming.
But over at the Army's high-security labs at Fort Detrick, Colonel Sarah Patel just wasn't buying that this was natural. She looked deeper, right into the virus's genetic code, and there she saw them. Tiny, precise edits. Changes so subtle, so clean, they looked like they'd been made with a scalpel. And her conclusion? It was chilling. This wasn't bad luck. This was designed.
So, how in the world did we get here? To understand that, we have to rewind the clock 6 months. The world was already on a knife's edge. Geopolitical tensions were simmering, especially in the South China Sea.
This timeline basically lays out the dominoes as they fell. You have the US Navy and the Chinese fleet playing this dangerous game of chicken. You have tensions flaring over Taiwan, and then, in the middle of all this, top scientists, including a brilliant geneticist named Dr. Li Wei, are suddenly recalled home to China amid spying accusations. The stage was being set for a new kind of war. And this meeting is the crucial turning point. A high-ranking Chinese general, totally fed up with American military moves, basically gives Dr. Li Wei an order: turn your research that was meant to cure disease, into a weapon. Her job was to create a virus that could cripple the US from the inside out, without anyone ever knowing it was an attack.
So how do you even do that? How do you actually design a stealth bioweapon that's clever enough to fool some of the best scientists on the planet?
Well, the answer lies in this incredible technology, CRISPR. Think of it as a biological find-and-replace tool for DNA. It has immense power. It holds the promise of curing genetic diseases. But what we see here is its dark side, the power to take something familiar, like the flu, and twist it into a perfectly disguised monster.
And this slide really breaks down their sinister strategy. First, Dr. Li's team picked a common flu strain that was already circulating in North America. Then they used CRISPR to tweak its internal genes, cranking up its lethality. But, and this is the genius, terrifying part, they left its outer shell, the part the tests look for, almost exactly the same. So to any standard test, it just looked like your average flu.
Dr. Li Wei's own words, they just capture the terrifying goal of this whole thing. This wasn't supposed to be some big, shocking attack. It was designed from the ground up for perfect, plausible deniability. An act of war that you could just blame on a really, really bad year from Mother Nature.
Now, while this biological ghost was spreading through the population, a totally different kind of hunt was happening in cyberspace. US intelligence analysts were looking for digital ghosts, bits of code that might explain what was going on.
An analyst at US Cyber Command, Elena Brooks, started noticing a pattern. These weren't random hacks. Hostile groups were probing hospital networks, mapping vaccine distribution routes, and breaching university labs doing flu research. They weren't just stealing data, they were doing reconnaissance for a biological attack.
And then Elena found the smoking gun. Dr. Li Wei, that same CRISPR specialist, was recalled from her job at a US-China flu research program. Just a short time after she left, that exact lab was hit by a sophisticated cyber attack. The theory became chillingly clear. They didn't just build a weapon,
They might have stolen American research to help them do it.
As the death toll in the U.S. climbs into the hundreds of thousands, the weapon's creator, Dr. Li Wei, is having a massive crisis of conscience. And at the exact same time, the U.S. starts building a terrifying response of its own, pushing the entire world one step closer to the edge.
And this slide just shows you the terrifying escalation. The American response, cooked up in secret at Fort Detrick, wasn't just a vaccine. It was potentially a bioweapon in its own right, an antigen designed to be more effective against people with genetic markers common in East Asian populations. The goal was deterrence, sure, but it put both sides on some very dangerous, morally gray ground.
Dr. Li Wei is haunted. She sees the news reports of American hospitals collapsing. She hears about the potential for an even deadlier second wave, and she realizes the horrifying endgame here. There's no winning this kind of war. She knows she has to do something, even if it means betraying her country and everyone she works with.
Using an old, forgotten contact number from her time in the US, Dr. Li sends out a cryptic message, and the signal is caught. This sets the entire climax in motion, an unbelievably high-risk black ops mission to get inside that heavily guarded Chinese lab during a massive coastal storm.
And here's the play-by-play. A CIA operative, Mark Davis, slips into the facility. He meets Dr. Li. She hands over hard drives with everything: the virus's design files, irrefutable proof of the attack, and even a potential counter-strain. They manage to escape back into the raging storm just as the alarms start screaming.
So, with Dr. Li Wei and the proof now in American hands, the silent war is about to get very, very loud. The truth is out, and the whole world is now teetering on the brink of an all-out biological conflict.
This table just lays out the insane tension of the final standoff. Publicly, you have the U.S. presenting its evidence and China firing back with furious denials. But behind the scenes, it's even worse. The U.S. is sitting on its own targeted bioweapon, debating whether to use it. And a corner China is threatening catastrophic consequences if they do.
And it all comes down to this final decision. The U.S. has the proof. It has the power to hit back. But the president nails it with this quote, "Once we cross that line, there is no going back." And he makes a huge choice. Instead of escalating, they're going to de-escalate. They're going to expose the truth to the world and push for a global ban on this kind of weapon.
So, the world steps back from the abyss. But the story leaves us with this final, really unsettling question. As our science unlocks the very code of life, the weapons of the future might not be loud and explosive. They might be silent, invisible, and frankly, a whole lot more terrifying. And figuring out where that line is between a defensive shield and an offensive sword, that might just be the greatest challenge we ever face.